Welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It. I'm Nina Rosner and I'm with Kyle Hargrove, licensed professional counselor. We're going to dig into a topic today that honestly it's a benefit to me personally because I'm struggling. To be honest, I'm struggling with some stuff in growing greater impact and trying to figure out who are the best candidates for coaching versus therapy. And I can't think of anybody better to talk to about this than Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, how you doing?
Well,
Nina, I
yeah.
I am agog that you say you can't think of anybody better to talk to this about this, but we'll give it the best shot that we have. I will give you that. We won't leave anything out there on the field. We'll lay it all out there.
Well, one of the neat things about you is that you're humble, which I appreciate because it's hard to get to what actually is true with people that aren't. Um, so, the challenge I'm seeing, and maybe you see this too in your practice, but is probably a little bit different, um, is it, and I think it fits in with the difficulties that people have in intimate relationships, in their marriages, and their parenting. And it's how do you navigate when you've got people that are really, really emotionally in not the right place to be, like for in my situation, doing coaching. When how do you in coaching is a forward moving business. It's not dealing with mental illness, whereas therapy can be forward moving for sure, especially in cognitive behavior therapy, which you do.
Mhm.
But it also handles the mental illness piece of it. I don't have the 2 years with the master's degree to be able to pull out the DSM-5 and label somebody with one of those titles so they can get insurance filed. Um,
Two, 2 years? Is that or was I supposed to finish in 2 years?
you're
Oh
hilarious.
my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you go full time, for the rest of us grown-ups, it takes a minute. Yeah. My degree's in communication, you know. Um, and so we do the interpersonal, intrapersonal, but not the like there's a fine line, I think, between just being hurting and suffering and being too far into that you're not ready for coaching.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't always like most of the time I pick people that are ready for coaching, but sometimes I don't. And I don't think it's to their benefit to hang out with me, and I usually send them to therapy. So when what do you think about all of this? Like, what are some observations that you're having, ahas and thoughts?
Well, the first observation I have is that I can think of no better undergraduate uh, school of what am I trying to say? No better area to study to prepare you for coaching than communications.
Mm,
Maybe the next best would be where my undergraduate studies lie, and that's in journalism.
mm,
But what I took away from journalism as an individual and as as far as personal skills were concerned, had much less to do with the study of the topic, the whatever it is you're covering or you're going to be looking at, or where I benefited from that was learning how to ask questions,
mm,
learning how to gather information, maybe that's different or deeper or better than information everybody else has already gathered.
right.
So don't belittle yourself because of where you've been and what you got, because I think that probably what you have experienced educationally has prepared you perfectly for what you do, and because it is 100% all day, every day about communication. When you sit in the place where you sit or where I sit, and it becomes imperative that we remember that and that we focus our efforts on doing the things that we already know how to do for the most part, and
Mm,
listening, and we always have to stay a step ahead. And I think that's probably one of the more challenging parts of our jobs, is that we need to be present in the moment with the person that we're coaching or counseling, But at the same time, we have to be predicting, we have to be projecting, we have to be wondering, we have to be looking for, the next step in the process of whatever it is that we're doing based on what we're hearing in real time.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can lose your focus in one or the other. If you get caught up in one, you lose your focus in the other. That's logical, right?
Yeah, easy to happen.
Yeah, easy for me to say. So, um, the first thing I think we have to do is to understand the difference between the two.
Hmm.
You know, what are they in order that, counseling and coaching or psychotherapy and coaching, um, what are they individually that, uh, what are the things that make up the process? What's necessary for that process to happen so that we can begin thinking even about what's the best one for somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great place to start. And when you go through coach training, they spend a lot of time delineating between the two because they don't want you practicing therapy without a license because apparently that's a federal crime.
Imagine
Um, yeah. So
that.
it's very much a forward movement. It's creating the life that you want to have. It's managing your thoughts and your actions in a way that produces the results that you're looking for. It's forward thinking versus, well, why am I like this? Now, there's a piece of what we do that is spiritually based, and we stick our toe in that just a tiny bit, and it is therapeutic for people, but it doesn't fit therapy. And it's a prayer process where we allow the Lord to reveal some beliefs that we have harbored for decades, even that are in the way and against his word that keep us from moving forward. So that helps with the process sometimes. And I find hands down, literally everybody that we work with has great results, incredible forward movement, develops identity in Christ, confidence, all of that. And then sometimes I get in working with people, it's usually in the first oh, 3, 4 weeks, and I go, I don't know if I should be working with this person. I think this person might need therapy. But, my master's degree is in communication, not therapy, not, so I don't really for sure know. But I do know that if I can't help them grow forward, if I can't help them move forward, using all the stuff that we do, even with prayer, that there's probably some sort of something there that somebody smarter than me needs to go help them with. And I usually send them to cognitive behavior therapy, dialectical behavior therapy. That's what I do with the people that have lots of drama and big sways of emotion, or
Yeah.
EMDR, which is for some people you can go with 2 sessions and boom, you're done. So I don't know. I wish I could tell before I took a month of their time, right? I don't know how to do that, I
So
guess.
you want to become a crystal ball.
Yeah, I really, yes, pretty much that. Yeah, that's it. Yep. You nailed it. That's it right there. I want to
I
not,
want to predict the future.
I
Yeah.
do. I want every client to 100% be able to move forward. That's it. Yep. Nailed it.
Okay. And I do too. I think you and I are exactly the same in that light. And just like you, I'm sure there are times when in the first hour of visiting with a new client, I know the likelihood of them, 100% getting through the problem is very slim.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
How I
Yeah.
can, I'm a fortune teller. I see all and I know all, except when I don't, which is most time. So,
No,
uh,
come on. How do you do that? Like what is like I know for me, I can't work with somebody if they can't admit that they're part of the reason that their marriage is screwed up.
Mhm.
If they can't take ownership, if it's 100% their spouse's fault, like if I can't get them to have any kind of awareness around that, I'm not going to work with them. Like I'm not up for that torture. It's torturous for both of us, and I don't need the money.
Right.
There's no reason to, that's not a coaching environment. That's not a frame that works for anybody, me
Yeah.
included. Those people suck the life out of me when they don't end up working with me. But how do you know in the first hour whether like what do people show up wearing emotionally, behaviorally, communicatively that communicates that to you?
Yeah. Well, let me backtrack and make sure that I spoke clearly. I don't always know,
You
but
said that.
there
You
are some
did.
that no, 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 no. Okay, I need to edit
Hold
this
up.
severely. I don't always know, but
Oh,
there
okay.
are times that I can see, there are certain characteristics or
Uh,
ways that they go about thinking
okay.
and behaving that tell me the likelihood of them getting everything they can out of this is slim. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen or how much will get accomplished. Please don't hear me saying that. But there are times when I get clients, and there have been times when in the first hour I have determined that this is not a good match. There are times when they have decided that as well.
We won't
And
talk
part,
about
I think
those.
in part that's because even in that first hour, I'm going to ask some pretty pointed questions, and
Yep.
they're going to, and usually it takes them off guard. I don't think they expect it early on, but it opens a window for the person in my seat to be able to look through and see, and that's what I'm talking about. It's not any
Okay.
special power. It's how did they handle a question that they probably weren't expecting to get, at least not in the first session.
Hmm.
Are they willing to walk into that space and say, that's an interesting question. Hang on a minute, let me think about that,
Hmm.
or not. If they're going to deflect, if they're going to work around, if they're going to go hide in the bushes or jump in the garbage can outside, who knows what they're going to do. So I look to see what type of response or reaction I get, and it's not like I'm not playing games with them.
Right.
What I might ask them is significant to what they've brought in.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, and it's not like I'm always just saying, okay, what question can I ask this time? Which is going to be the magic question today. But sometimes the questions I do ask are they're pretty straight up, and then sometimes the feedback that I give is not what they want to hear.
Well, yeah, that's why they pay people to help them, is they
Yeah,
want, my understanding, this is why I've paid coaches in the past, is I want to be better than I am today. I need to hear hard things that I don't see. I got a blind spot. What is it? How do I move out of it?
right.
That's what I want coaching for.
Well, what I like about coaching is that it's much more organized. Whereas coaching is going to primarily focus on personal and professional development or maybe spiritual development,
Yep.
and achieving specific goals.
Yep.
We set goals in psychotherapy, but it feels often like the goalpost is moving, throughout the therapeutic process because
Mhm.
we uncover things we didn't know were there to begin with.
Mhm.
We walk into, you are about personal and professional development and achieving goals. Counseling is about addressing emotional, psychological, relational issues, uh, very much more specifically. Now, is there anybody that can say, oh, those two lines of thought never cross over?
Oh, there's a whole lot of overlap in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it, you know, a significant number of my clients, you know, as we're working through their emotional, psychological, or relational issues, and we have set goals to show that we have done the work, we've gotten where we want to go. Well, part of that includes seeing improvement and
Hmm.
seeing forward momentum and movement in their personal and professional development.
Yep.
They may not be achieving personally and professionally because they're not okay emotionally.
Yep.
And matter of fact, I would say in large part, if they're not achieving in those other areas, there is probably emotional baggage in there somewhere that is weighing them down and keeping them from moving forward or acknowledging certain things about themselves or others or communicating well. I mean, there could be a dozen different things
So
have
how
to
many
do
years?
with what they've been through emotionally and psychologically and relationally that are going to drag them backwards in their personal and professional development.
Yeah, they keep repeating those cycles instead of, yeah. So the overlap is there and you have to deal with that.
Right.
So you've been a therapist 30 years for how long?
33.
33. Okay. That's a minute.
It is.
Um,
It's a collection of minutes. I like to look at it that way.
yeah. Um, have you seen people in maybe this is no, I'm interrupting myself now. What's that about? I'm wondering if there's any kind of pervasive lack of responsibility that people are taking culturally. Um, it seems like we have a big culture of blame. And I don't know if that's just the way it is, and it's always been like this, or if it's gotten worse. I don't know. Have you got an observation around that?
I do it. I so don't want to get myself or anyone else in trouble today. Uh, uh, to answer your question, unequivocally, yes. A severe, steep, sharp drop off in accountability and responsibility has occurred in our culture and our society.
Mm,
When did it start? I don't know.
yeah.
Uh, when will it end? Today, I hope. I don't. I'm not holding my breath on that, but I just see it in so many different venues of life, starting with our government
Yeah.
and our law enforcement, uh, not holding people accountable and using social reasons for not doing their jobs.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that every police officer, or that even most police officers, or county sheriffs, or state troopers, or whatever, don't do their jobs. They're doing what they're told.
Right.
Okay, this comes from above.
Yep.
All right, so please hear me there. I'm extraordinarily supportive of our local and county and state and federal law enforcement officials. What irritates the ever loving hoo ha out of me is when they are told by someone else to not do the job that they've been trained
Yeah.
to do
Yeah. To
for
stand
whatever
down.
the reason. And usually that reason is going to be colored with politics, if
Yeah.
not purely political. So there's that. Now, let me step down off that soapbox and go, to other different places. It's in education.
Yep.
Okay. Over the past 20 years at least, maybe even more, we've lowered the bar of what we anticipate and expect our children to learn and understand and know when they get that piece of paper that says they've graduated. And it's to the point where they, in large part, and I don't know the percentages, so I'm not going to quote any, in large part, cannot effectively read and write
Hmm.
as graduating seniors in high school.
Yep. It's a shame.
And I got a heavy dose of that in 2016 when I took a break from full time counseling and stepped into the arena of education at the age of 54. I don't recommend it, but I did last 3 years and was not on the news even once.
Mhm.
So the the things that I observed in the classroom where expectations were concerned were sobering. And that started with the educational system and what they were expected to achieve in there. It went to behavior in the classroom and what we were expected to tolerate there.
Mhm.
And then it gave me a wide open picture into parenting.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've had 3.5, 4.5 decades of working with the parents of children and youth.
Hmm.
And I thought I had a pretty good finger on the pulse of parents until I entered that education realm and realized I had missed a decade somewhere or a
Hmm.
generation because parents were not holding their children accountable. Uh, Time was
Yeah.
when a teacher or a principal called my mother or father to report something about me that was off and we needed to have a meeting. They came to the school, and if we were going to have sides, they were going to sit on the side of the teacher or the principal,
Oh,
and
yes.
I'd be over there on the other side all by myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
now in large part, many parents will immediately take the side of their child, and there is an instantaneous combative relationship between the teacher and the parent.
Yeah.
You know, the adult who is educated and professionally certified and trained is going to be put aside, and the word of the 12-year-old is going to be considered gospel.
Hmm.
Now, you tell me right now how that works out, other than there is a streak of distrust for people in authority that runs through people of parenting age right now.
Yeah. That's
So
the thing.
I don't know what you expected in the answer to your question, but it is rampant, it is systemic, and there is no part of our society, I'm afraid, that has not been impacted by it significantly.
Well, and I see that in married couples, and you would hope that the church would be helping people get this right, but they're not really any different. I taught community college here in Cincinnati for 5 years, and I had an introduction to communication and a public speaking course that I taught. And I finally got to the only class the only group of people I would teach was the honor students because I was so tired of the rest of the population. Oh my word. The stuff that these so-called adults would attempt to get away with, right? Um, and I failed students and they'd come crying and they'd be like, I need this to graduate. And I'm like, okay, you get to give an extra speech, I'll be flexible. And then they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do this stuff. And then they'd be crying and I'd be like, this wasn't my choice. This is what you chose. And I even had a kid that was the child of a friend of mine. And you can't talk about this stuff with their parent, right? Because they're adults now. And this was during COVID. And he wouldn't stand up or get an audience for his speeches. You had to have 8 family members or friends or something. You could 6 feet apart. Like we did all of that. It was over Zoom. That's how we gave our speeches. It was so stupid. But that's what we did. And he would never get an audience and he would never stand up. And I'm like, dude, I'm not telling you this again. You're not fulfilling the record. It's not public speaking when you're talking to a Zoom, like and recording it and sending me a tape. Like it's not how we do this. And he said, well, I really need the class to graduate. My mom's gonna have to pay for another year of college for me if I don't pass this semester, if I don't. And I'm like, this is not my problem. He goes, you're really gonna do this to me? I said, no, I'm not doing anything to you. You've chosen to ignore me. That's your choice. And he was furious. And good on his mom. I never heard about it. She had to spend another year on tuition for this guy. But there was no way. Like, if you stand for nothing, right? Like you can't have flexible integrity. Who are you then? And
Yeah.
I think that's what's wrong with our culture is that we're intermittently righteous and often for the wrong causes. There's no moral compass in our country anymore. We might be getting some of that back. I'm not sure. but when it comes to being married, like the moral compass needs to be the Bible. And when people tell me that, well, it's all my spouse's fault, it's like, do you not know that you have planks in your own eyes? Like, apparently not. And me too. I don't know. You know, when we're looking at how do you pick people, I'm thinking that personal responsibility, taking ownership should play a bigger part in because people that really can grow and have a growth mindset are ones that take responsibility. Like maybe I need to be really emphasizing that.
I'm tired. Um, and I'm not just tired. I mean, I'm a man in my 60s and, been working all day. But what I'm tired of is having to take responsibility and accountability for everything I mess up. But it was so ingrained into the fabric of who I am by my own parents and my
Mhm.
grandparents and the important people around me that it doesn't matter how tired I am. If I mess up, and don't get me wrong, there may be in the moment when something has gone completely haywire, and I'm good. Look, my first option is to look for somebody to blame.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
do that
I'm a
now and
human being.
again.
I'm an animal just like everybody else. And the first thing is, who did this to me, or how did? Uh, and then, but when when things calm down a little bit, I don't think there's anybody that knows me that would say that I don't come back and say, look, this is on me. This is something that happened because I made a mistake, or maybe I made an error in judgment. I've been known to do that on occasion too, which means a mistake on purpose. I tried to cut a corner. I tried to skip something. I tried to, go unnoticed. Maybe it's happened. Trust me. But being accountable and responsible for yourself is work. And I think when we come back to this thing about a lack of accountability or irresponsibility, it comes back to being emotionally and socially lazy.
Mm,
Um, so much has been given. Uh, Here we go again. Social media, the internet,
yep,
texting,
yep.
smartphones.
We're
Uh,
lazy. Yep,
as much
yep.
as they have made our lives so good, I'm afraid they may have taken as much, if not more, from us. And it I honestly don't have the confidence that that's ever going to change. And I think technology will march on and we will march with it. We will insist on having it in our pockets.
I saw an interview with Simon Sinek, who's a leading business coach. He's a genius. And he basically he pulled out his cell phone and he said, you know, there's going to be them and there's us. And I'm not quoting him directly, but he's you know the people that are addicted to these things and the people that are not. And those that are not are going to have fulfilling, beautiful lives. And those that are going to have issues. And we have to realize that we're dealing with an addicted society. You know, as you bring that up, I'm like, oh, yeah. So a lot of the reason why people don't do well and have the lack of emotional control and mastery over themselves is because they're dopamine addicts
Hmm.
looking for the next hit and their partner's not giving it to them and this is work and it's hard right now in this moment and you got to stick with it and focus and pay attention but you have a short attention span because you've drugged yourself so much,
Yeah.
right?
Have you heard the new term bed rotting?
No.
Yeah. I've,
What?
I've just heard it in the last couple of weeks and I've heard it maybe 3 or 4 times. And I'm not going to quote anybody or say anything specific other than it has to do with this addiction specifically, and the fact that at a very subtle level, we begin believing messages in our own mind about, this is more important than that, and uh, I need the high of
Mm,
the dopamine hit more than I need to go to work,
Oof.
or more than I need to do the yard, or more than I need to take care of my children, or more than I need to handle the utilities around the house. And it doesn't take a great deal of creativity to take that term bed rotting and put pictures to it real quick.
Ew.
Yeah. And it's significant.
That's disgusting.
And it's gross to think about, well, you're going to lay in bed until you're rot. You're going to sit on the couch until you're rot. I'm a lazy boy and I'm going to sit in my lazy boy,
Yeah.
until I rot.
Yeah. Well, they say that sitting is the new smoking, and what are we sitting doing? We're
We're going
sitting.
to have butt cancer? What, what
No,
is it?
the lack of motion. You're hilarious. The lack of motion. Our hips are having issues.
Yeah.
I'm not a great candidate for that because like this full half hour I sit talking to you, and I have two other meetings where I sit for an hour. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not a
I
great.
struggle to sit for 50 minutes at a time, uh, 6 or 7 hours a day.
Yeah,
And when I go to the chiropractor for my maintenance visit, the first thing he says is, your hips are out.
yeah.
And the first thing I say is, I know that.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely impacting things. So I don't know if we got super far on how do you know who should do what. Um, but I think one of the things I
We
want to,
definitely haven't come up with any solutions.
well,
That's
I
for
think I
sure.
have, and I may have be such a niche market, so tiny that I have next to no customers, but I really can only help the people I can really help,
Mhm.
right? And what we do is astonishing and it works for people that are those that take responsibility for their lives.
Well, and the antithesis of that in my work is I I can work circles around my client. To what end? I'm just contributing to the problem if I'm doing that.
Exactly.
So, my stock statement is I'm a hard worker. I like to work. It makes me feel good about me. Hopefully it's helpful to you, but I'm not going to work harder than you are on you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so at times, I'll get clients that expect me to fix them. And when
Yeah.
I say the magic of therapy, although I don't believe in magic, the magic of therapy is not what happens in these 45 or 50 minutes that we spend together,
Hmm.
but in what you do
Yep.
with what we have sent you out with
Yep.
between this session and the next.
Yep.
What are you
That's
going to
much.
do? And if
Yes.
I don't give them something practical, something that's kind of the same way I feel about church. When I go to church and hear the sermon, I want to walk out with something relevant and practical for me.
Yep.
And then there's people who say, no, I just want to hear the preacher, give me an expository lesson on, Hezekiah or whatever. Well, that's great. I'm sure that there are things in Hezekiah that are relevant and practical for me. But I need a pastor who's going to tie those things together,
Yeah.
you know, to help get my attention and motivate me to step out on Sunday. You know, Methodists have probably already beat us to Luby's, so you know, go home and talk about it. But then in the coming days, have a lingering mental and spiritual and emotional motivation, to fix something that's wrong, to get better at something that I already know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, to recognize things around me that maybe I've become numb to.
Hmm.
So it's the same in therapy for me as a therapist is, I need you to know that if you do nothing between now and when we meet again, we'll be recovering much of what we've already done today in our
Hmm.
next session.
Yeah.
We got to go back and review and make sure that we have an understanding because for some reason you didn't do anything.
Right.
I gave you homework, you didn't do it.
Well, and you're not like a lot of therapists. I mean, social work in particular, not that I'm slamming social work, but I've noticed that there's some practical life skills in there, but it's not about, it's kind of like a friend thing. Um, and I've had clients have people that are social workers that walk with them, and then I've seen clients with cognitive behavioral therapists and people that do EMDR and dialectical behavior therapy. And when you're actually doing something in the mind and choosing to have action follow it, then I mean the goal of therapy should be heal this, get on with it.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Yes.
Um,
Get uncomfortable now. Okay. And if you're not, I'm going to make sure you do. It's my job. Okay. Get uncomfortable now because I'm going to send you into some awkward places. If they're
mm,
not awkward, you're probably not progressing.
right. Yeah.
We're
There's supposed
learning new things. We're taking new steps. We're stretching and exceeding who and what we've been before.
mm,
That's exercising muscles that we have. We just haven't used them, and it's not any different than going to the gym. It's gonna going to the gym sucks. I just say, so it's sometimes it's gonna suck. Sometimes, I'm gonna go out there and if I'm in therapy, my therapist is gonna say, all right, this is your challenge for this week. You got this
Yep.
thing going on with this person at work, and you're not happy with the way it's working, and da 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 da, and maybe we're figuring out a little bit about what's behind it, but also, here's your homework. You know,
Yeah, I
when
love
you
that.
find yourself in this situation that you're in every week, you're going to behave differently than you typically have. And this is what it wants to look like. So all I'm asking you to do is to kind of follow a little script that's different than what you've done in the past, and then pay attention to what happens next.
Hmm.
That's all.
Yep.
Well, that's gonna, I don't know. It feels kind of funny. Yep, it does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Supposed
And I'd
to.
rather it feel funny than feel bad.
Hmm.
And right now you're feeling kind of bad. Most of them.
Yep.
Let's fix it.
Yeah. I wish there was a shoe. Just do it. Let's fix it. Get the t-shirt. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. So bottom line, if you're growth oriented, CBT or coaching, definitely. If you're emotional and can't stop letting your emotions ruin everything, you need therapy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So if you're in Texas and you need therapy, Kyle Hargrove LPC. So KYLEHARGROVE LPC at gmail.com. And you can pop over to the Greater Impact website, and that's greaterimpact.org, and take the marriage assessment and see where you're at and talk to us. So maybe we'll send you to Kyle.
And you'll know,
Yeah.
well, I failed this test.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So she
they're going
won't
to
not.
send me on to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we need to like I want to be more aggressive in this space because um I think that there's some people that I've worked with, but that I think they would have grown faster had they invested differently right out of the gate. And it's hard to tell that up front till you meet with them for a little bit. Um, but once I think I need to trust my gut with that and go with it and stay in the lane because it's a great lane. Oh, it's so good. And I'm not wired to do what you do. I'm not. I don't enjoy that work. It's a little draining, to put it mildly. For me, I know there's people that love that. I love working with people that are changing their lives
Mhm.
and changing them in a forward moving way versus like I don't mind. I do enjoy seeing people heal from their false beliefs, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the deep work that some people really, really need, that's not me. And so I appreciate you kicking this topic around a little bit. And maybe it helps somebody decide, okay, should I do coaching or should I do therapy? Maybe it helps them navigate that as well. So thanks for coming by. Thanks for the discussion.